When I was 17, I was home alone during a house invasion and my 32-year-old female was assaulted. I'm finally in a fantastic position and happy generally, but it took years of intense therapy for me to learn how to live with what had occurred to me. I should note that I've been taking white Thai/kickboxing since I was 18 as part of my healing process to help build control and self-defense. Because of how my attack unfolded, being grabbed from behind is one of my few triggers. Getting grabbed from behind instantly sends me into panic mode and sets off my PTSD. My brother-in-law and all of my close friends and family are aware of this. They don't all understand the source of my dread, they just know not to do it. Next up is the AITA section. I had a get-together at my house last week with a few family members and friends. My 29-year-old brother-in-law has always been a joker and troublemaker. We have gotten along rather well over the 5 years that he and my sister have been together, and his practical jokes have never bothered me because he has never actually focused them at me. I went upstairs to change at one point in the evening. My brother-in-law was walking back downstairs via the hallway when he decided it would be a great joke to terrify me. He grabbed me by the back when he emerged from the guest room. I snapped, elbowing him in the face and fracturing his nose in the process. I was having a complete meltdown and could not stop spiraling, even after everyone ran upstairs and I realized it was only him. I eventually threw him out of my house and called him every derogatory name in the book. After a few days, my sister contacted me to let me know that she believed I should apologize. She said that since he was unaware of the source of my concern, he had no way of knowing that playing an innocent joke would have elicited such a response. I maintain that it makes no difference if he was unaware of the specific reason I was afraid. He knew it was a crippling fear brought on by a terrible experience and ought to have known better. Not to add that I shattered his nose, and he still hasn't apologized to me. Though they do think that throwing him out went a bit too far, our family feels that my violent response was appropriate. Therefore, am I the a-hole? Before you read the updates, here are the most popular comments, not the a-hole. What gives him the right to put his hands on you? The fact that he knew not to grab you from behind. And did it anyway? Fool around and find out comes to mind, and you found out. How old is he? 12. Pranks aren't cute or funny after 12. Not the a-hole. You're pretty awesome, like movie style takedown awesome. I like the above suggestion about saying sorry you didn't take me seriously, and your nose got broken. Kicking him out was a valid reaction. If you don't grab women from behind in the dark, no type of apology at all. It is not her fault he is a pervert. Not the a-hole. I'm not buying his innocent prank BS. To be honest, what he did was deliberately cruel, knowing what it would do to you. He decided to do the thing that traumatized you so much. Think about that. He thought it would be a funny thing to do. That's not a prank, it's freaking psychopathic. It wouldn't surprise me if he was getting a thrill from it. I'm also not believing he doesn't know what happened to you. He knew you had a huge trauma, and he knew that as a result of this, being grabbed from behind is usually triggering for you. Unless he has the intelligence of a lump of moldy cheese, he knows what happened to you. It's not hard to add it up. You owe him nothing, he owes you 1,000 apologies. First news *. Hi everyone, I have decided to have limited contact, that is, no communication at all, with my sister for a while after a very trying and emotional chat. After reading all of your comments, she and the rest of my family finally understood things from my point of view. She expressed regret and acknowledged that she genuinely understood her husband's actions were inappropriate. She believes, nonetheless, that she must support her husband in order to save their marriage. She will therefore not be present if her spouse is not accepted someplace in the interim. It's evident that maintaining a relationship with her will require maintaining one with them, which is not something I'm willing to do for the foreseeable future. I will say that I'm extremely hurt and disappointed, but that was her decision, just as mine in keeping my distance. This individual is still putting in extra effort about 3 weeks after the incident and after reading hundreds of comments. He even seemed to have the audacity to claim that the reason everyone is supporting me is because I previously shared a SA tale. Even though everything was messed up, he still seems to think it was a joke. I think I overreacted, and I'm lucky he didn't decide to sue me for the medical expense he will have to pay for. His broken nose. It's not like it will go anywhere because it's illegal for him to grasp me. Why do these practical jokers believe that playing practical jokes is more important than feeling secure in one's own skin or house? Making a woman believe she is being attacked is humorous, but why? Husband-in-law is not a practical joker. He is an oppressor. It's fortunate for him that it took him this long to exact his revenge. Well done, OP, for smashing his nose. Regretfully, she didn't burst his balls. Indeed, it sounds like a man experimenting to see how far he can go without getting caught. Many predators start by practicing their approach of creeping on women within their own families. I believe he was trying to put her in her place by playing a prank on her since she had upset him earlier, probably over something small. Update #2 Hi everyone, I have decided to have limited contact, that is, no communication at all, with my sister for a while after a very trying and emotional chat. After reading all of your comments, she and the rest of my family finally understood things from my point of view. She expressed regret and acknowledged that she genuinely understood her husband's actions were inappropriate. She believes, nonetheless, that she must support her husband in order to save their marriage. She will therefore not be present if her spouse is not accepted someplace in the interim. It's evident that maintaining a relationship with her will require maintaining one with them, which is not something I'm willing to do for the foreseeable future. I will say that I'm extremely hurt and disappointed, but that was her decision, just as mine in keeping my distance. This individual is still putting in extra effort about 3 weeks after the incident and after reading hundreds of comments. He even seemed to have the audacity to claim that the reason everyone is supporting me is because I previously shared a SA tale. Even after all this messing around, he still seems to think that it was all a joke and that I overreacted. I'm fortunate that he chooses not to sue me for the estimated medical costs associated with his broken nose. It's not like it will go anywhere because it's illegal for him to grasp me. Why do these practical jokers believe that playing practical jokes is more important than feeling secure in one's own skin or house? Making a woman believe she is being attacked is humorous, but why? Husband-in-law is not a practical joker. He is an oppressor. It's fortunate for him that it took him this long to exact his revenge. I've found that most people that identify as pranksters are just obnoxious jerks. I was tricked by a senior in my college residence hall. In her defense, there were a lot of foolish people who used to do this in addition to her. In any case, she waited in the shadows when I was leaving the cafeteria following supper. She simply leapt in front of me and let out a loud noise. I slapped her in the face out of reflex after freaking out. It was merely my instinct in that circumstance, not even an act of retaliation. After I apologized and she kind of did too, nobody made fun of me again. It was a joke amongst us all for months following this incident. When everyone else is downstairs, who the hell leaves a bedroom quietly and surprises a woman in her own home by grabbing her from behind? This was sicko behavior, not just a jokester doing a practical joke. Furthermore, it describes OP's past as SA story, with her being genuinely and seriously assaulted. I would be concerned about OP's sister staying with this man since he is dangerous. Well done, OP, for smashing his nose. Regretfully, she didn't burst his balls. Indeed, it sounds like a man experimenting to see how far he can go without getting caught. Many predators start by practicing their approach of creeping on women within their own families. I believe that she had offended him earlier, probably for a small infraction, and that he was attempting to correct her while seeming to be playing a practical joke. Next story, if I turned down a friend's request to move in because of their other friendships, would that make me the bad guy? During the 2019 to 2020 academic year, I, a 26-year-old woman, lived in an apartment where I was gaslighted and subjected to severe bullying while pursuing my master's degree. I'm still in treatment because it sent me to a really dark place mentally. Jade, a 24-year-old woman, Aaron, a 25-year-old woman, and Ben, a 28-year-old man, made up the majority of the group. My 25-year-old good friend Jane and I moved into the same apartment. Because they were her friends, Jane did participate in some of the bullying but did nothing to stop the rest. She also exhibits some dramatic involvement and codependency with Ben. She's never offered an apology. Because Jane is autistic, I don't hold it against her as much as I would if she didn't completely understand, but it frequently crosses my border of I don't want to know about them or have nothing to do with them. All I've done is try to stay away from occasions where I know she might have asked my tormentors along. Due to Jane or chance encounters, I have only met them a few times, and each occasion has been unpleasant, from their ugly backstabbing laughter to their ridiculing of my accent and insinuations that I suffer from an eating issue, etc. It's pitiful, especially given their age. Our city is still where we all reside. Regretfully, the UK is currently experiencing a housing crisis, with my city being particularly badly hit. I am fortunate enough to share a lovely apartment in a pleasant neighborhood with two other women, ages 25 and 26. We paid significantly less than market value for our place. The 25-year-old woman is leaving. We are currently seeking a successor and have received a ton of applications, one of which is from Jane. I want to feel comfortable in my apartment and not have to worry about returning home to discover individuals who have made my life miserable sitting in my kitchen, which is why I don't want to live with Jane. I understand, though, that Jane is unable to pay more than this rent, and her overbearing parents will not let her reside in a less costly neighborhood, so if she doesn't move in with us, she will have to continue living with her parents and making the commute. Given that her parents still treat her like a child, I am aware that remaining with them would be detrimental to her mental health. Taking everything into account, would I be the biggest creep if I informed Jane that her tight association with someone makes me feel uncomfortable and even afraid? Here are some remarks. Not quite. All you need to say to Jane is that she isn't allowed to move in. Her life and circumstances are not your concern, and you should put your own living arrangements first. Jane made her decision and decided to keep her friendship with these awful folks. She has continuously favored others above you, and as a result of her decisions, she has barred herself from ever occupying your space. Not Dale. Definitely this. In your life, you must prioritize yourself. By the way, I don't think having autism is a justification for inappropriate behavior. Jane does, however, need to learn how to control her words and behaviors as a result of the diagnosis or illness. Usually easier said than done. I am aware that years ago, her parents, carers, or caseworkers ought to have been ahead of the curve in this regard. Not Dale. Considering how you've described things, you should have been at ease in your own house. Jane is obviously not your friend, she doesn't respect your boundaries, and to be honest, I don't understand why you're still friends with her. Aside from this circumstance, we belong to a close-knit group and have been friends for a very long time. The only horrible thing she has ever done to me is this whole mess. And even though it hurts me so much, I've chosen to forgive her. But for my own benefit, I have largely kept a distance from her. You seem to be aware of what to do already. It's a major deal even if this is the only negative thing she's done. She continues to associate with these individuals who have brought you emotional distress. You already know, I believe, that having her move into the apartment with you will also reunite you with Jade, Aaron, and Ben. You have the right to defend you tranquilly, and your house should be your secure haven. Final tale, considering that my father's widow still resides there, am I a bad person for selling his house? My father, who was 33, passed away lately. Before that, he had been wed to his widow, Penny, for around 7 years. My father and I were not very close. Though I can't say we were particularly close for a long time prior to his passing, we did enjoy each other's company and spoke frequently. I was shocked to find that Dad had left me his whole estate when he passed away. Aside from the tiny amount he left Penny, he put everything in trust a year before he passed away, and I am the only beneficiary. According to the attorney, he was told not to leave her anything in case she attempted to dispute it. I now own everything, including his house. Both my father's and my attorneys have warned that D. Willis is set up in a way that makes challenging it nearly impossible and prohibitively expensive. I feel improper spending my father's money because I don't need it, I don't want it, and our relationship makes it wrong. But Dad clearly intended me to have it, so I plan to give everything to my daughter, name her as the beneficiary of the trust, and when she's old enough, she'll have it in addition to her own trust fund. But I'm not interested in keeping my father's home. My father and I do not reside in the same nation, and I have no desire to handle the administration of his belongings. I want to wrap up the legal matters, put an end to this extremely trying chapter, and grieve in private. Penny resides in the house, which is the problem. Despite the lawyer's assertion that Penny could battle to remain in the house, given her lack of employment and reliance on my father for financial support, it is unlikely that she can afford legal representation. She would never be able to keep the enormous house either due to her lack of income. Hence, I would have to maintain the house and grounds while she resides there, which is something I am unwilling to do due to the CA and my desire to avoid having a continuing role in my father's life. After informing her through the lawyers that I intended to sell the house, her children began to send me nasty and hateful texts, accusing me of being cold-blooded and ruthless. I know this will be uncomfortable for them, but I cannot take responsibility for my father's actions, the individuals he chose to associate with, or the wreckage he left behind. I'm not attempting this as a way to spite Penny. All I'm trying to do is move past a difficult period of my life. Am I the jerk because you can't pay the upkeep costs? I will side with your father in this case. I think it inexcusable that he gave his widow only a meager money, and that too merely to prevent her from disputing it. How in the world could he be married to someone for whom he felt so little? My dad was an unusual man. It's possible that he exacted his retribution because Penny may have done something insignificant to annoy him once. Give her and her family an opportunity to buy the house once you and your realtor have agreed on a price before you sell it. Proceed with the sale if they decline. Not the bastard. This is the appropriate method to use. Inform her family that you will not be maintaining the property and that you are selling it, but that you would allow them to buy it before listing it. I have a strong suspicion that nobody will volunteer. This is one of those cases, in my opinion, when you have to ask yourself if you can accept their choice. Legally speaking, Opie may be clear, but this raises a very personal moral dilemma because the father seems like a terrible guy who coerced Opie into playing a cruel game after his death. Opie acknowledges that it's feasible that the entire fortune was intended as a spiteful act of retaliation against the wife over a very small matter. It is extremely cruel for him to have left his financially dependent wife in such a vulnerable position. Furthermore, Opie doesn't need or want the money. Even since Opie has the final say in this matter, they must choose between signing the house over to the late man's wife out of guilt or participating knowingly in their father's sinister schemes.